The Evil Dentist, Alan Klein, by Alan Johnson. He was born in Newark, New Jersey on December 13th, 1931, to a Jewish immigrant from Budapest. He founded ABKO Records in 1961. 3 years prior, him and his wife entered into business dealings after they were introduced to Bobby Darin and Sam Cooke. He is most known for managing the Rolling Stones and taking over the Beatles after Brian Epstein passed away. And a side note for the Beatles, he's also known as one of the reasons why the Beatles broke up. Klein was a New York based manager who was very notorious, even in the music business, for being very ruthless and abrasive when it came to his business dealings. In this slide, here is Alan Klein and some of the artists that he is most famous for managing. You have the Rolling Stones, you have Sam Cooke, the legend, and you have the legendary Beatles. Also, in a side note, during his reign with the Beatles, they had wrote probably one of their most famous songs to date, which was Hey Jude. In 1960s, he started his career after helping Sam Cooke and Bobby Darin recoup millions in misappropriated funds. A year later, in 1961, he founded ABKO Records with his wife. In 1965, he was introduced to the Rolling Stones by their then manager, Andrew Long Oldham. In 1966, he helped restructure their contract with Astor and Oldham after he found out that the Rolling Stones were receiving a disappropriated share of the group's income, which was quite common at that time. Easton and Oldham were receiving 2% more on their royalties and sales than the Stones. In 1968, the Stones were concerned with the Billings dealings, which they were rightfully so, by hiring a merchant banker by the name of Prince Rupert Lowenstein to look at their contract with Klein. In 1969, the Rolling Stones were concerned that Alan Klein was spending too much time with the Beatles and not enough time with them, and their relationship started to go sour. In 1970, Alan Klein managed to keep the Beatles together for a final album. This is why I say that he really wasn't responsible for the Beatles breaking up. I believe that the Beatles were eventually going to breaking up because, as far as the writing was concerned, they were going in two different directions. Also in 1970, he brought in Phil Spector to produce their final album and their movie, which made $6 million, which is equivalent to $37 million in 2016. Phil McCartney also didn't care too much for Phil Spector. Late 1970, the tensions between him and the Rolling Stones was at their highest level. At that same time, Mick Jagger was also negotiating a deal with Lowenstein to become the new manager and to out Alan Klein. 1971, the Stones replaced Klein and entered into lawsuits and litigations with Alan and AKO Records. It concluded with them receiving $1.2 million as a settlement, also an additional settlement and payment of $775,000 to the Stones upon the release of their album at that time, Metamorphosis, and another $1 million payment to the Stones for non-payments by Mr. Klein for the songwriting royalties, and he also the release of 4 more albums, which included Rock and Roll Circus and Roll Gold, the very best of the Rolling Stones. After his issues with the Rolling Stones finished, he managed the famous and infamous Phil Spector. Also, during his success in the music business, he also dipped into Hollywood. In 1950s, he joined Hollywood as a producer. He produced 5 films, including A Stranger in Town, The Stranger Returns, and The Sound of the Stranger. He also tried his luck at Broadway, which he was not very successful. His final moments and years, he served 2 months in jail in 1980 for attempted tax evasion and making false statements on his taxes. In 1988, he managed the infamous Phil Spector Business Affairs, which he was very successful in. In 2004, he won a Grammy Award for Sam Cooke's documentary, Legend. And in 2009, sadly, he passed away at age 77 from respiratory failure. All in all, Allen Klein was a very ruthless, aggressive, notorious, smart, and intelligent manager. He revolutionized the way business was done in the music business, and he also revolutionized the music business.